Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Payne.
No listener.
Oprah, her mission, to be a benefit.
My advice, I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. Thanks for joining me. It is Friday, and I know you're excited about the weekend, especially since things are to help me understand it a little more and see what we can do. All of Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. And it is celebrating Juneteenth today. So I wanted to bring someone special on to help me understand it a little more and see what we can do, all of us in this country, to make things better than what they are. Please welcome to the show, Dr. Eisha Mason. Welcome, welcome. I am so delighted to have you. I'm so delighted. We've known each other for a long time, for like almost a dozen years, but this is our first longer than 2-minute conversation, and I'm so glad about it. And you have been all over the place doing all kinds of peace work. You were a director. I'll let you introduce kind of the highlights of your history. So I know you were the director of a Nobel Peace Prize winning organization.
My friends just always elevate my status, which I'm very flattered. I worked for the American Friends Service Committee, which is a Quaker-based social justice organization. And yes, they did win a Nobel Peace Prize.
Well, that's all the truth, though.
Long before I got there. And I was the associate director for the West region of the U.S. because it's a global organization.
Beautiful. And you also organized the first nonviolence something in LA?
The Season for Nonviolence in Los Angeles, which was in 1999. And that event changed my life. And it's still thriving, still going strong.
That's super awesome. So tell me, what is Juneteenth? For those who may be listening, and that's a new term. I know that there are people who are not aware that June 19th, I believe, is a special day. Why is that?
Well, in 1865, the Civil War was over, but not all of the people who were enslaved throughout the country knew that they were now free. They didn't all know about the Emancipation Proclamation. So June 19th, 1865 is the date when the last state, the last group of people who had been enslaved, were informed that they were no longer in bondage. And that was when the announcement was made in Texas.
Wow. So very important day.
Yeah. 2 years after the war was over was when these people found out they were no longer enslaved. They were free.
Wow. Wow. And your background, you're an African-American woman. Where do you hail from?
I hail from Baltimore, Maryland, and my people go way back in the state of Maryland.
So you have been very intimately involved in peace efforts, nonviolent. How do you stay in that space when you see something like George Floyd happen? When you continue to hear about all the names of those innocent people who are killed just because of their dark skin?
It's a practice. The past 2 years have been incredibly challenging for this country. It's been incredibly challenging for people of conscience throughout this country. And it's been really hard for me. Mm-hmm. I have never had such a rigorous practice to stay true to the kind of person that I want to be, and to keep my heart open and to keep my heart from breaking. Mm-hmm. And so the years of a spiritual practice, a spiritual discipline have really supported me in the last couple of years with the practice of meditation. I write a lot. I do a lot of writing. I spend a lot of time in nature. And yet perhaps the most, in addition to meditation, the most important support I've had is the support of community, of being with like-minded individuals who have that shared intention, a shared vision for how we want our society to be, which is one based on the dignity and worth of every human being, and also people who are committed to doing this work of the heart. Like I find that if I'm in action to help fulfill the vision that I have, then depression or anger don't get the best of me.
So you keep your eye on the prize, so to speak.
And keep walking forward.
Yeah. So let's put the moose on the table, which is my Canadian version of the elephant in the room. So for all those who get their undies all wrapped up when the whole term Black Lives Matter come up, and you get one group that says, well, it's all lives that matter. What about the Native Americans? What about, why are we focusing on Black Lives Matter? And quickly move into all lives matter. We're all the same. We all bleed red. We're, it's one race. We don't need to continue to revisit the sins of our fathers, so to speak. Revisit slavery. Revisit all the wrongs that have been done. I haven't done anything. I'm not a slave owner. So, why am I being called a racist now? I didn't do those things. What do you say to them? What do we say to them?
Well, for one thing, I'm very mindful not to call anyone a racist as a noun. That is your identity. That's not your identity unless you choose it. But people do have racist thoughts. They do have values, or may have behaviors that are racist, but those are things that we pick up and that we can put down. Let me say that again. You can pick that up. You can put that down. And the past is present until we address the past. It's with us all the time, unconsciously, subliminally, until we are able to meet our past as it was and fully embrace what happened in our past and go through what can be a painful process of healing. That's true for an individual, and that's true for a country. And part of what we're challenged with today and historically is developing the capacity to do that work, developing the capacity to be uncomfortable, to be able to face that pain. Keeping our intention on the purpose for doing this is for healing. The purpose for doing this is to create something anew, but I can't skip it. I can't skip it. Otherwise, the wound just continues to fester. And we're in a culture, we're in a society that doesn't encourage that. We're in a popular culture right now that wants everything simplified. It's this or that. It's
black or white.
Right. And that's not real life. That's not real life. Part of maturing as a human being is our ability to hold complexity, our ability to be able to hold difficulty, pain, challenge, uncomfortability, because we realize we're more than that. It's a very immature place to be when it's like, I can't tolerate any discomfort. Well, if that's true, you're stuck. You can't grow. You can't evolve. You can't fully access life. So for very selfish reasons, people would want to consciously build that capacity to look at the full spectrum of what's going on here. When people say, well, that's the past, that's simply not true. It's present.
So what is the alternative to saying what I just said? Is it what one of my white friends said? She said, until George Floyd happened, I really did not understand the level of racism that we had in this country. So that to me is like, okay, that's awareness. Now, how much awareness do we, is it important for white Americans to admit that much of the wealth that was built in our country was on the backs of slaves, the majority of which who were Black, African American, yanked from their homes in a slave trade that you cannot just ignore? Or is that part of it? Because I'll tell you, I just saw something go by that they don't even want any of that kind of education in the public school system. Right. It's like, how do you not teach that? Because that's the truth, right?
Yeah. And yet, this is the first time many people have ever heard of Juneteenth.
True.
And this is an important part, not of Black history, but of American history.
Right.
And if we do not learn, if we do not face our history, then we are doomed to repeat it again and again. And some folks will think, so what? It doesn't affect me. I'm just fine. But and this is from my background, but it affects your soul. Mm-hmm. You can plead ignorance for only so long. And then when does ignorance become willful ignorance?
Right.
An ignorance of convenience. It's an illusion to think I can be, I love what Martin Luther King said, that we will all, come together and thrive, or we will all die together. Like that's the way the universe works. We're all interconnected. Right. And so you don't become aware, you don't get educated, you don't take action. Really, you don't do that to help these other people. You do that to help yourself. Right. It's a selfish reason to do it. You do that to as part of choosing a different identity, as part of embodying a different set of values, as part of making amends, not for what your ancestors did, but for the fact that you benefit every day from that system. How can we share power? How can we share the blessings of the system? That's what's in front of us. And we say Black Lives Matter because up until now, the evidence is around us, they have not. And you mentioned the Native American community. Let me absolutely bring the Native American community into that conversation, because there is no other group that has faced genocide at that level.
Well, yeah, that residential school story up in Canada was just so horrifically sad. And I guess that's the part, maybe COVID helped us take a good stock look where we didn't before. Maybe, hopefully, because, I came to the States from Canada and, I chose to be American after 9/11. And, all that, the Vanderbilts and the, all the first families and all the wealth and all of that. And I can remember just this process of understanding how that happened. Like it wasn't, luck. It wasn't, well, they just worked hard. People were used, people were abused, and the reluctance of white Americans to share power or acknowledge the past. I'm not saying all of them, but the ones in power, certainly number 45, is a great example of just, I half jokingly, and I know I'm going to get in trouble for this, I started saying this because it's my way of trying to jolt people into becoming aware. But let's put the moose on the table. It's not MAGA, it's not Make America Great Again. It's MAWA, Make America White Again. I don't want to share my power. I don't want to have better voting practices to include all. I don't want, our states to be more diverse. And, I want it to be the lynching laws that are still not, passed. I mean, how much more do we have to look at before we put that moose on the table and say, you're either for valuing diversity or you're not. You're
And
either
if you're not, what is that about? Like, what are you so afraid of?
Twilight Zone-y.
And I remember James Baldwin wrote, maybe one reason people are so afraid. Maybe one reason people are so full of hate is because if they gave it up, they would have to deal with their own pain.
That I picked this spotlight and that you are here again.
And I think there's such wisdom and insight in that statement.
I hope that's true.
There's nothing life-affirming or life-giving about hating.
Yeah. Well, you and I know that, but you know, look at Capitol Hill. That's a party, right? They were happy to be hating. Happy. You know, watching that guy on the megaphone was just like, oh my God. Then he wanted to go after the media. Sorry. I have to go back to my discipline. Extra meditation after this. So how does, you know, because we've talked about the other side. Now, how does
can I
Yeah, please.
But my sense of it is that hate cannot be compartmentalized like that. Rage cannot be compartmentalized like that. It spills over. It spills over into your relationships with the people you're close to. It spills over into your workplace. It cannot be contained like that. So it's a poisonous thing, whether you're consciously aware of it or not, whether you get a high from it in that moment or not. It's poisoning you. And deep down, I think people know that unless they become numb. And that's even more tragic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I hate, you know, I'm usually pretty positive, but there's a lot of numbnuts out there.
There's a lot of numbness out there. Yeah.
So what do you say to African Americans and Blacks who, I remember after George Floyd happened, the murder of George Floyd happened, I saw a post of a friend of mine who said, you know, this stuff hurts. Like I wasn't kidding about being pulled over because of my skin color. Like I'm not making this stuff up. And how do you stay in that non-violent place when it continues to happen? The news reports continuing, you know, the police brutality for specific Black and brown population. What do you say to help the population that's so angry on the other side?
I can speak from my experience with Black people and my own experience. And there are times that rage is appropriate. And yet if you stay in anger or in rage too long, just as I said, for the rest of the country, it's true for us too. If I stay in rage too long, it's unhealthy. It will hurt me physically. It will hurt me emotionally. It will hurt me psychically and spiritually. So, and what I also know is that underneath that rage, there is profound hurt, profound wounding. So much of this past year, I've had the opportunity to organize, co-facilitate healing events for the Black community specifically, where we have safe spaces in which we can do some of that grieving and healing and venting work. That's essential, because if you're going to take action, you want to take it from the healthiest place possible. So we don't bypass those emotions. We don't judge those emotions, but we're finding a way to take care of ourselves, which tends to happen in community. And then I have found, and again in my own experience, the times that I'm yelling at the television or the radio, and I have taken the time to do my practice, it's like, why am I yelling? What power am I giving to that person, that group, that institution? And then what is that saying about me? That I'm powerless? And I know that's not true. Because, you know, I know who I am. I know whose I am. So I know I have power. So then the question becomes, so what am I going to do with my power? What action am I going to take? How am I going to engage in and take action for what I believe in? And I know the outcome doesn't matter as much as that I took the action. I moved that energy in the right direction. And at the right time, conditions will be right. And that shift will take place.
Mm-hmm.
Even the shift that's taken place in the last 18 months is extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
But that was built on the work of countless individuals over years of seeming inertia when we suddenly hit that tipping point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Yeah, I just had a click. Thank you for that, which is when I'm yelling, I'm giving away my power. I'm actively handing it over. So I don't want to do that. I want
to. I used to work for a guy in the film business, and he never yelled on the set. And it was just so cool. And I said, how do you do that? He said, well, when you know what you're doing, you never have to yell. Wow.
Wow.
And when you're in a march, you're going to make a lot of noise because that's part of why you're there. But when I am at home alone, yelling at the TV, no, I have I've forgotten who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm feeling helpless. I'm feeling overwhelmed. And I can do something about that.
Mm-hmm. And that's another shift. Thank you for that. Doing something doesn't mean necessarily shaking your fist or doing a march. Doing something can be processing through the emotions that you are having so that you can move it out into a different place.
Move it into action. I do want to make that clear. Like you don't want to act. It reminds me of after 9/11, people were in a totally reactionary place and we made tragic decisions. So we want to, as a movement, we're working for change in this moment and we're building a vision of society. So we want to honor those emotions, take care of those emotions, and act from that place of wholeness, act from that place of clear vision and intention.
Mm-hmm. So one of the BS belief systems that I've heard, this is sort of I'm taking a left turn here, but I want to talk about it because nobody talks about it. Mm-hmm. And I'm known for that, that some white or Caucasian Americans don't want to be aware or acknowledge what happened in slavery because of the money that would have to the reparations that would have to be done. And so that's one of the reasons, if not the strongest reason, to say that wasn't me, that those, times past, that was a long time ago, that's part of whatever. Speak to that.
Well, I can share some facts. I mean, after the Japanese internment during World War II, compensation was paid to those families. And after the Civil War, compensation was paid to slave owners. And many people don't know that. But they were each paid $300 per slave, which is the equivalent about $8,000 today.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So slave owners get compensation, but those whose labor was exploited receive nothing. Now, people will say, well, what about the 40 acres and a mule? And there was a proclamation that each formerly enslaved person be given 40 acres and a mule. But when President Andrew Johnson became president, he annulled that proclamation. So people didn't get that 40 acres and a mule. So if we have given reparations in the past, when we have compensated people in the past, and yet no one has been more exploited, whose labor has been more exploited in this country, how do we justify, well, no, we can't really do that. We can't really pay reparations. Mm-hmm. That's a real soul searcher about, well, what is that really about?
Right. What, has anybody done the numbers? Like, what would that be and how would that happen? Is there?
I can't speak with authority on that.
Okay.
I know that people have done that analysis, and there are multiple ideas about how that might happen. Like if it weren't cash, well, what about education, or what about
an extra
all
vote?
these things?
Right.
But when we get right down to it, you paid the slave owners the equivalent of $8,000, and their labor was not exploited. How do you justify that?
You can't. You just can't. You just can't.
So if we have a gazillion dollars for war and defense, then we can find a way. We can find a way. We can
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. I'm so glad I asked that question. I was wondering if I should or shouldn't, but I'm so glad because I had no idea. And I knew this would happen. We're already to the end of the time, but I'll definitely have you back. It's been a delight. I know now why Rev said he loves you. I'm my big brother, and I look forward to more discussions. How can we support you and the work that you're doing? First of all, I'm giving you Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award. All my guests, but I hear your name all the time. I see the things that you're doing. I'm glad to hear. I saw that of the listening sessions that you've done. You'll be happy to know I got to facilitate one in Santa Monica for the Asian Hate. So we're in this together. You're another satellite sister of mine. I call Akoyo Graham a satellite. So you're my new satellite sister because we come out of Agape and we're not followers. Michael creates leaders. And so we're out doing our thing. And I'm honored to call you my satellite sister now. So how do we support or find you?
I'm so easy to find because my website is aishamason.com.
There you go.
So that's as simple as it gets. And information about the Community Healing Forum or Black Community Healing Forum, which are two different entities, is there as well. My message would be, we need to take care of our hearts. We need to do that healing work. We need to do that practice, and we need to organize. You've got to embody it in action.
Beautiful.
Organize.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. It's so much fun.
It is. And that's it for today. Thank you. And for the very first time on my Throwback Thursday series, we are backstage live to continue the conversation. And you just saw and heard her wisdom for the last 27 minutes. Please welcome back to my show, literally, Eisha Mason. First of all, how was that? Have you ever done that before? I have not done that on my Throwback Thursday series. Have a guest, watch ourselves in an interview, and then come on after and talk. How is that for you? Because normally I never used to listen to myself. I had such a strong critic that I was afraid to listen, and because I would criticize, I should have said that, or I should have said that. Have you done this before?
I'm pretty much like you. I used to do radio, and the only reason I would listen was because I knew if you listen, you'll get better. But it was agonizing.
Right?
But as I was listening to this, you are such a great interviewer.
Oh.
Your questions, they're like, "Ooh, I better be at the top of my game. I can't sleep on this because your questions are really great."
Oh, and I was thinking the same
fluff.
thing about you, that your responses were just like fantastic. And then I texted you. I don't know if you saw that. It was almost like Twilight Zone, though, because we were talking about, I'm getting chills, about the first time he was in power, right? And even though we don't talk about politics on the show, we do talk about solution, and we do talk about acting from a place of wholeness. But isn't that weird that 4 years later, Yeah, that was, I think, at the end of his, time before, and now we're at the beginning of his time again. And so the things that we were saying was like, oh my goodness gracious, it's coming to through. I didn't say that when my mic was muted, but because of FCC regulations, I can't say that live. But wow, Aisha, wasn't that like outer worldly too?
I can say it was disturbing. And I thought, there's the evidence. If you don't do the work, if you don't face your past, if you don't deal with what's governing you, driving you, motivating you, then it will just get bigger. It will just magnify until you pay attention and do the work. So here we are as individuals and as a country, right up against the wall. Like, what you gonna do? Are you gonna do the work? Are you finally going to do the deep healing that is required?
Yeah. It is just it's time. It's time. And I'm really glad too. Like this was not, I would like to take credit that this was planned for, but my guest last minute had to bow out. And so I was like, oh, what do I do? I really wanted to celebrate Juneteenth with a live show. And then, it is normally Throwback Thursdays. And I thought, I pulled up all my past shows on Juneteenth. You popped up and I went, okay, we'll just, have that. And then I realized it was only 30 minutes. And I'm like, So I texted you and said, what are the chances that you are available? And I'm so glad, because this is the first time I've done this. And I'm thinking I'm going to have to do it again, because there's an added depth of having the past and the words come back and relearn, revisit, and adjust if needed, as to, you said the lesson here is we didn't deal with, right? And now we're here again, spookily almost. What can we do now, as today is Juneteenth?
I don't think the prescription has changed. It depends on, I think it depends on who you are in this society, what your role is in this society. The prescription, everyone has healing work to do. Whether you have been at the effect of racism and discrimination and all the other isms, or whether you have directly been a perpetrator of racism, discrimination, or if you have chosen to be a bystander, and there are no bystanders. Everyone, spiritually, we're given the power of choice. When they say it's all good, it's all God, but Spirit gave us choice. So what we look at is the outpicturing of choices that are made, not just individually, but collectively. So there's that. And then we get to choose, okay, am I ready to do what's required of me now, individually and collectively? And we don't have any other choice, because there are consequences to any choice we make, including inaction. So there's healing, and then there is action.
Yeah, that's saying what you permit, you promote. Whoop, whoop. I love that one. I haven't used that in a long time, but
Exactly.
it's very, very applicable. And there was a second point and I lost it. But we're going to take a quick break for news, weather, and traffic. We're going to be right back, though. You're not going to want to miss the rest of this show with Eisha Mason, celebrating Juneteenth on Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind. We'll be right back in 2 and 2. That's not Chuck Woolery, but peace in, peace out. Don't go away.
Well, she has been dubbed the Asian Oprah, and she just wants all of us to be happy.
Dr. Marissa, aka the Asian Oprah, says the most important thing you can choose is choosing to be happy.
You are tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa.
That's the idea for Dr. Marissa Pay's new book called 8 Ways to Be Happy.
Many of us say, I am my own worst critic. Nobody's harder on me than I am. And my response to that is, stop it. Why are you doing that to yourself? You have to be your biggest fan, because if you can't at the end of the day say, I did a good job, who is? We don't have to constantly be angry at the things that are wrong. Why don't we choose to be happy about things that are right? We have the choice. That's our muscle. And life is so amazing if we can see it.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome back. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News Radio, home to the Asian Oprah, number one talk in the IE. Thank you very much. And streaming everywhere, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and of course, my YouTube TV channel, where if you free subscribe and give me the finger, this one, not the other one, you will get an alert every weekday morning to tune into the show about hope and happiness. Now on 685 consecutive weeks, more than 13 years, 1,414 podcast shows, but who's counting? And I just found out my impression number is 3.9 million. So thank you so much. I'm shocked myself. I had no clue that it was that high. And I'm not, I hate when people judge you by their numbers, but it is comforting to know that the people who said that a show that didn't talk about headlines and did not talk about politics, religion, or get you angry when you listen would last more than a year. So 13 years later, I'm still here, and I'm really glad to have wonderful guests like Eisha Mason back, not only on a Throwback Thursday, but live as well. For the first time, I'm trying this. I'm going to do it again because it is so interesting to listen to the past interview and now be able to talk about what's changed or what we still need to do or in solution again. And so welcome back, Eisha Mason. And for those of you who don't know who she is, let's see if I can bring up she hails from a really long history of studying and practicing. Both she's got African studies, she's got spiritual psychology. I don't have it up. I said I was going to have it up, but somehow it disappeared. But I know that you have a master's and a bachelor's or a few of the kind of academic background, and then you have a really rich practice as well, and you work with both communities, groups, individuals on peace work. So I'm so glad to have you here on the day, Juneteenth, actually this year. So as you were listening to yourself and not being critical, what would you say were the takeaways that you would hope people would in this day of Juneteenth? Maybe those who have now watched things reverse or appear to reverse?
Let me be clear. In terms of policy, in terms of finance, in terms of law, things are reversing. Now, spiritually, it's open to interpretation, but in terms of what we can see, hear, feel, and touch, things are alarming. So I was thinking while we were on break, it's easy to say, do some healing and take action. And I think I want to break that down a little bit, because if most of us knew how to do that, we'd be doing that. And if we knew what action to take, we'd be in it. And so I want to say a little more about that.
Please.
So I think the first step is to make a decision that you want to do the inner work and the outer work. And you don't have to know what that's going to look like. And you don't have to as they say, you don't have to eat the whole elephant. You're saying, what you're saying is, I'm going to take the next step. For me to do healing work, for me to do the grounding, spiritually strengthening, anchoring work, I find it is way more effective to do that in community. Because there's a resonance in community. There is a collective consciousness that supports and lifts each person. So first make a decision, then look for community. It doesn't have to be the ultimate community you will stay in for your whole life. Just get started. The third thing I would say is, in that community and in your personal practice, cultivate vision and imagination. Because I think one thing that we are seeing now is everything we've done in the past, many of those tools we've used may be necessary, but they're not sufficient. And there's a difference between necessary and sufficient. We are called right now to engage our imagination. There's a teacher, for short, he's named Bai, who says, we're all still in the slave ship. I love that saying. We're all still in the slave ship, meaning there is a box, there are parameters that we think are reality, but they're not. They're just what we're used to on a slave ship. So part of our practice is pushing those boundaries that we have internally to see what lies beyond what I know, what lies beyond what we know as a culture and a society, because that's what's calling us, and that's what should be motivating us to do what we need to do. Then the third thing is to begin to take action. And many of us think action means I'm going to participate in a demonstration, which I call witnessing. I don't see it as a protest, although it may be. I think demonstration is a demonstration of values, but spiritually, for me, it is bearing witness. But action is so much more than that. You know, for many of us, it's not safe to be in a public demonstration. It is not safe for us, or it may not be the best choice because we have children we have to take care of, we have an elder we're taking care of, or we have a health condition. So that's okay. There are a million other ways to be in action. And again, you can join a group, a community that is writing postcards, that makes calls, that does letters. In my neighborhood, which is deeply impacted. I live in the greater Los Angeles area. My neighborhood is being impacted by these raids. I realized the car wash that I go to, which was shut down, I thought, when they open, I'm going to bake cookies. And I'm going to take them cookies. Because I couldn't prevent what happened. But I can, in that small way, show my love, my affection, my sense that we are neighbors and I care about you. Now, I'm not going to just bake cookies. That's not the only thing I'm going to do. But I'm just saying, there's so much you can do. You can't protest, take water, take snacks. I saw people doing that. But also, use your creativity to imagine, what else can I do to raise the vibration and also be clear about what I believe in and protect and care for my neighbors, the ones I know and don't know. So I just wanted to tease that out a bit. And I would say, and study. Study how did we get here? Study what the issues are so that you are acting from an informed place and be willing to change. I can guarantee you, you are not 100% right. You're just not. There are other people who can inform you, who can grow you. And that means sometimes being a little uncomfortable. But that's okay. That's an indication that you are moving out of that slave ship box. Those molecules are moving around because new information is coming in that can enrich you. So those are some of the tips or bullet points I would want to offer.
And this is my life. I had asked myself the other day when I was, covering a protest, I don't feel comfortable. And I have asked the question, what am I to do in all of this? And then I get my answer by a hashtag #accidental conversation, not accidental conversation with you on a Throwback Thursday live that is helping me sort through what I'm asking. I know I'm not right, and I know I don't know it all. And so I'm asking and you're answering. So I'm getting a little opening to understanding, because I'm getting some pretty strong criticism of my discipline of, if I can't change something, I'm not going to spend the day focusing on it and getting mad about it and talking to someone and making it worse. And we're just talk. And it's all negative and it's stressing me out, stressing you out. And that is not a helpful way, in my book, literally, to act. So for me, inspired action from listening to you is making myself receptive to the inspired action, using what I've already been given to act from. So having you on the show accidentally was one of those inspired actions, right? And then the witnessing, instead of calling it a protest, and I'm glad you put the moose on the table, which is my version of talking about the elephant in the room, because I was born in Canada, is that there are people who think that that is the answer. We're going to be mad. We're going to use the F word. We're going to use the FT word. And that is the way that I'm going to react to all of this. And hate is hate. And for me, that also goes against, it's not, you fight against something, you're not really going to help it. You're just pushing against it. Law of attraction. That's not helpful. However, joining a community, doing the, showing care, however you want to show care, I think my big brother, Dr. Michael Barnard Beckwith said, go make a friend with a person of color. That was the initial, what can I do to begin to turn that giant ship that has turned. And now we're going to have to do like many, many more circles to get that inertia that's moving this way to start to go back, but it's not going to be easy.
There is no wasted action. If it, depending upon where it comes from, is a million little actions that accumulate to that overnight success. A million little actions that become the tipping point. That's one thing. I'm not, and I want to be clear, it's demonstration, protest, witness, whatever word you use, and these many, many other actions. And for me, it's like, I love singing at those events. Like, I was like, where's the singing, or where's the music, or where's the dancing, or where are the puppets? There's so many ways to do it. So don't get caught in the past, expand imagination and know the law. I'm going to say that. You don't want to get caught because you don't know the law. And then I'm going to mention, so when they say make a friend, when Reverend Michael says make a friend, so if you're my friend, I don't expect you to disappear when bad things are happening. That's not friendship. So people need to get clear. Being a friend means being curious about my experience, the way I'm curious about yours. And when things get tough, I expect you to be in my life. I expect you to show up. I expect you to help in whatever way you can.
Yeah, that's putting the moose on the table too, because I know, and I'll be honest, when I hear or see, and I don't listen to the news, that's one of my things. It's not that I'm not aware. I am aware, but I want to balance out what the average, watching it and going, and then neglecting all the things that you have responsibilities to do, like feed your kids and take them to school, because you're up in arms on something that really, that kind of energy is wasted in my book. So
Yes, how do
instead,
you channel that energy
into something that will actually make a difference. That I'm aligned with, that I've always been aligned with. And so the anger that people feel, the worry that people feel, the anxiety that people feel because they're going to worst case scenario, the balance that I'm hearing from you is that this is not something we can just sit through for another 3.5 years. That this is something where we have to do something or it will continue to get worse. And it is policy changes. This is not something that is just, temporary. So so getting educated on those things, and knowing that there's so much false news, knowing that the rhetoric and all of that, how do we stay in that place of receptivity? And what do we know is real and not real?
It takes work. And that's the unfortunate truth. It's a lot more work now to be able to distinguish what is true, what is accurate. I'll say that, what is accurate and what is not. So a few things. I gauge how much I can take in at any time. And there are times that I say, I'm here. I'm here. I need to step back for a moment. I can tell my body's getting dysregulated. I can tell my heart on many levels is saying I need a moment to recharge, renew, regenerate. So that's one thing. I do extra work now. I subscribe to a couple of listservs that are fact checkers. And I try to do that before I post stuff. I don't always get it right, but most of the time I'm fact checking. If I see something really alarming, I look for what are the sources? And that's a lot more work. There was something.
Yeah, I actually
something, and then I lost.
See, I use this media bias chart.
Excellent.
So when I see something, I want to make sure that I'm in the middle, right?
Yeah.
So similar.
To me, for media, I'm not looking for fair and balanced. That was I have a lot of criticism about that. For me, the measure is fair and accurate. Is it accurate? That's what I count on media for. Is it fair, accurate?
Yeah, I heard something really disturbing from my younger daughter the other day about the level of mom. Everybody lies on their resume. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
What are you going to do? Like, things are different now. And speaking, directly to that, is it accurate? So yeah, we're in times. The thing that I'm going to take away from here, and I'm going to ask you for your final word in a minute, is that act from
act from a place of wholeness. So if you're off your rocker, don't act. If you know that you are in doom and gloom and worst case scenario, I still believe that if I am acting from a place of knowing that well-being abounds, not in a spiritual bypass way, not in a, everything is roses and strawberries and unicorns, but knowing that everything that happens here on the planet is a chance for us to grow, expand, and unfold in the best way for ourselves, for others, and for the world. And if I can keep that in my foreground, then I can get to that place of, okay, what now, brown cow? Inspire me. What should I do next? And I don't know if I told you, I'm going back on I'm back on world tour, because this is what I felt. What's going on here? Maybe a little part of it, but the happy message or the mission, 88 million more happy people in the next 8 years. If there's not a time for that, it's now, right? And so that's my answer, my choice to hear that. Final word from you.
So for me, that motivation is love. If my actions are motivated by love, I don't, and I act in accord with the quality of love. So I can't say I love this and then act from a violent place. That's not in alignment. That's not in spiritual integrity. And I want to mention, you were saying some people think, well, yelling, screaming, cussing when you're in demonstration, that makes them feel better. I would say that's not understanding how it works, and meaning there is a goal. What is your goal? If your goal is to vent, have at it. If your goal is to win if your goal is to build mass support for what you're working for, that's not strategic. That's just not strategic. So when you operate from the principle and the quality of love, you're probably not going to go wrong. And you will keep recharging yourself. The people who, we look at the images of the civil rights movement, the indigenous movements, the Chicano movement. People suffered physically. They were harmed, but they knew what their purpose was, and they were motivated by love. That's what gave them the courage to keep showing up. That's us right now. That's our challenge. Otherwise, we risk becoming the thing we despise. Ooh, don't want to end on that.
Ooh.
That's how we avoid becoming the thing we despise.
Yeah. It's we're out of time, and I'm not happy about it. But I got asked to speak yesterday, and it was I said I was gonna talk about, worry is like a prayer for bad things to happen, and that's one of my favorite Native American sayings. And his response was, I wouldn't use that because you may trigger some people in the audience. And I went, okay. Well, I ended up not speaking there because I have to push the edge of the envelope. And it was terrifying, right? That now I'm going to have a muzzle, right, on places that I'm going to speak. I've never had that before. And
what were you challenging to do rather than worry? What were you?
Oh, just to say Native American was going to trigger some people. That it was a Native American saying instead of a dead white president saying. We didn't want to end on that note either, but I love you. Thank you so much
for inviting me.
Oh,
what a great start to my June 19th.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. Tomorrow is Straight Talk with myself and Ricky Rebel. I hope that you enjoyed this as much as I did. It's all about balance. You know the drill. Peace, fingers up, please. It's all about balance. Peace in, peace out. World peace through inner peace. Now go have the best day ever. We'll
Yeah.
see you tomorrow.